great with our potential client, Jillian. So, what will happen is that you're just going to introduce yourself, like, just a short introduction of yourself, and then short introduction of your related work experiences, and then Jillian will ask you a few questions. Okay?
All right.
All right. Okay, take the floor.
Okay. Let's go. Well, first and foremost, Jillian, I'm really glad that I have finally meet you. About me, by the way, I'm that type of person that's very, clever. I really like to sing and dance. If you have seen my TikTok videos, I do a lot of, skits and funny stuff, humor stuff. So that's what I usually do when I'm free. At the same time, I also like to explore the nature. So I like to do biking, hiking, a little bit of meditation, and listening to ambience music. Just to cool down and just release the stress all away, because we don't want that, right? About my work experience, I've been a BPO agent for too long, probably around 5 years, specializing customer service, billing, and sales. I also handled retention, technical support, and for some point, I've been promoted as a subject matter expert. Way back when I'm starting as a freelancer or virtual assistant, my niche is cold calling or outreach, and eventually transitioned into social media, graphic design, video editing, and digital marketing as well. Right now, I'm so excited to explore animation because that's basically my passion, and I really like to do artistic stuff. And I have handled pages that I was able to grow up to from 500 to 75 as of the moment. So I have read your job descriptions. It resonates to me. It speaks to me per se, and I'm really excited to hear more about the job description, how you wanted me to perform, how you wanted me to act into it, and how do you expect me to be the to be the ideal virtual assistant of your choice. So that's all I have to share, and it's your turn.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction, Rafael. And so, just a little bit about me and the company. The name of my company is Appraisal Insights. It is now officially 14 months old, so a relatively new company. And Appraisal Insights focuses on residential real estate appraising with a specific emphasis on bias and discrimination. So here in the US, if somebody wants to get a mortgage because they're purchasing a property or they already own a property and they want to refinance it, the bank will send an appraiser to the house. But what has been happening is that if you look like me and you open the door and let the appraiser in, your appraised value will come in here. But if you are typically like a white male, your appraised value will come in here for the same house. And so there is this gap, and Appraisal Insights is designed to help banks close that gap and make sure that everybody gets a fair and equitable appraisal. And so, with that, I'm about to launch a certification program to help banks fight appraisal bias. And I'm looking for a manager to get the word out that this course exists and why everybody should take it. So that's a little bit about the company. And so I have a handful of questions here for you, and then at the end, I'd love to open it up again in case you have any additional questions for me. And so with that being said, let's get started. I'll ask you the first question.
Mm-hmm.
Can you walk me through a successful email campaign that you led from start to finish? And what kind of strategies did you use to deliver results?
All right. So upon creating email campaign, I need to make sure that the message and the the total content of the campaign is clear to me. So I create a whiteboard. I put all the elements and important details, including links, including websites, all the materials that's vital for the campaign. Once I have them all together, I will start doing. I'm gonna do a brainstorming to make sure that the message is visible, to make sure that the message is, powerful, and it will really um, instill to everyone who reads it. So after I created a topic and a basically a system, I will make sure to provide it or to have the word of the client, and to make sure that this approach is good for him or her. Now, once it's all said and done, I'll start using tools such as Go High Level, Kajabi, Levitate, what else? HubSpot, ManyChat, and a lot more. So those are the tools, mostly the tools that I've used. But let's just for example, we're gonna use Kajabi. So on Kajabi, I'll make sure that the banner is present, that it really represent the vision and the entire brand of the client. Now, that also includes the email banners and the layouts. If there's, it's much better if we do QR codes and or some sort of GIF to make it more appealing and to make it more interesting to people, because plain old boring email campaign or email material is something that most people don't really have the time to check. So those are the things or the key some elements that make a successful email campaign or email materials. Then once it's all sent to the prospects and the leads, I'll make sure to monitor the open rate, because that's very important. If just in case, I do have this experience with one coach that I've worked before, that we have received a very low open rate. So what we did is we did a follow up email or an automation to make sure that we could, you know reach and tap to the audience, because it's not just enough to just send the message. And it's very important that people read it and people understand the message of it. If we can if just along the way, if we could do, or if we could answer some sort of questions or concerns or maybe clarifications, that's where customer service will enter to make sure that the relay of message is clear and it really pricked the heart and minds of the reader and the audience prospects. And at the end, we're gonna do some insights. We're gonna gather insights to make sure that or to assess if the campaign is successful or not, and we can use that insights or data for our next campaign to make sure that we are not doing the same mistake, or we could also based on that um, ways on how we could improve and how we could make it better. So those are the things that I do mostly for email campaigns.
Great. Thank you. Next question. How do you approach developing a digital marketing plan, and what factors do you consider when determining the most effective strategies?
All right. So the way I approach things differently. So before I even start working on a marketing plan, I make sure that I have seen how it should be operating, and I wanted to make sure that I totally understand um, the marketing plan. If just in case there are something that I see that's falling short or needs improvement, then that's where I could put my personal expertise on the action to make it appealing. And how I do it is I make sure to do I make sure to suggest or to provide a presentation wherein this approach will gonna be effective. How we could, like for example, the 3-2-1-1 method that I have 3211 method means that we have three types of approach, two types of interaction, one type of engagement, and another type of connection, something like that. So um, all right. So once it's all packed together, then I think the answer that I have previously with the email campaign applies as well, because that is really the system that I have. Make sure that it's all intact, have a clear vision, um, the message is properly relayed, communication, follow up or nurturing, and lastly, evaluation. So that's how I could take approach on that.
Great. Next question. Can you provide an example of a time when you used data to inform a marketing decision and achieve a specific goal?
All right. Well, actually, it happens all the time when when I do digital marketing or email campaigns or even social media campaigns. Um, we have, especially when the client really wanted this kind of approach for a specific campaign. Turns out that not all the time that whatever they decided, is successful. Most of the time, it's just on the mid or some sort of mediocre per se. So
I'm
what a
sorry, some sort of what?
mediocre, sorry.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, the result is mediocre. So from there, I always take down notes, all of the things that needs improvement, all of the things that did not work, all of the things that did work, and all of the things or all of the suggestions that I can add or I could suggest to make the next the next campaign successful. So from that specific data, I'll compose or I'll gonna create some sort of presentation wherein I provide a revised or a more enhanced version of what we have previously, because there are clients who wanted to stick on their approach, but I just to be honest, not always it's not always that their approach will work, as what I've mentioned earlier. So I will stick on their approach, cite some examples of what are the things that did not work, what are the things that did work, and client, here's the suggestion that I can provide some sort of a b testing. A/B testing means this is what will happen if we will do this type of approach, and this will happen if we will do my approach or our revised version of the approach that I did. So after that, asking the client for evaluation if this will be good. Of course, there will be some sort of convincing uh, point there to make sure that the client really have take a ride on the suggestion or on the plan. Then eventually we can take off if just in case both party agrees with each other.
Just a follow-up question on that. What do you do, or how have you handled situations where you've done the A/B testing, you've tried to convince the client, and then the client still says, "No, let's stick with my mediocre plan."
Okay, that's a very good question. And this happened mostly all of the time. This happens all the time because there's always clients that's extremely visionary that they wanted this to really happen and to take place. So I think the thing that we can do about that is provide the client some sort of let's just say um, some sort of research. I forgot the term, but some sort of when you do business, you always do that type of research. So we're gonna do some research and some sort of presentation of why this suggestion works. Example of successful businesses who adopts this suggestions, the benefits and the good things that you could get if we will do this approach. Also, we could also give the client a picture of how it would look like if we will apply this strategy to his or her existing strategy, and how it will, how will it improved the overall campaign.
And have you ever had an instance where even with all the convincing, you still aren't successful? And if so, how did you handle that?
Yeah, yeah. I totally have a lot of experience with that, especially with realtors. I'm not saying that it's everyone has this, but with realtors, they really wanted this type of approach, especially old school type of realtor, because they really wanted to stick with this plan. And so, if just in case this, my proposal did not work, it did not click, it did not spark anything to the client. So what I do is I make sure to have a clear understanding of the client's vision, because it seems, because what may seems that the client don't really want it, it's not that the client don't really want change, but the client may be afraid of, afraid of uncertainties, stuff like that. So I, you know I'm not saying that I'm not saying that it will totally change the client's mind, but I believe that if the client has a clear understanding of your plan, your strategies, and how will it affect the overall campaign that the client envisioned, I believe that there will be some sort of change of mind. But based on my previous experience, what it did is just let go of it. Just go with it. I mean, go with it, and enhance the presentation. Make sure to provide appealing and attracting source materials, graphic materials, video references, slides, etc., so that we could, have a punch on that side of the presentation or campaign.
Next question. How do you ensure the cleanliness and effectiveness of a mailing list?
All right, that's very good question. And honestly, I just had finished that type of webinar regarding email campaigns and graphic design. So I was told that less is more, and that really ensures the uh, the cleanliness and orderliness of the design. Also, though it's less and more, you need to make sure that the color combination and the branding is really clicking. Like for example, if you are talking about happiness, it should be red. If red or yellow. If you're talking about health, it should be green. If you're thinking about, something that is nature, it should be blue, something like that. So it's these small details that really adds up to the totality of the cleanliness and orderliness of a design or campaign.
And how do you spoke a little bit about this, but I'll ask the question anyway. How do you approach designing visually appealing marketing material?
All right, so there should be, number one, balance. So you need to make sure that the totality of the graphics and the graphic materials, is balanced. It should not be a little bit of inclined, or the distance between the margin and the graphics is too wide, and the other counterpart is too narrow, something like that. So we need to make sure that it's balanced. Number two, contrast should be present. So contrast means that the main subject should be highlighted, or not totally to the point that it covers the entire graphics, but there is some sort of contrast between all the elements and the main graphics, or the main subject. Aside from that, we could also do you know what do you call that? From big to small. I forgot the term, but we need to make sure that there's placement. I mean placement. Placement is very important as well. Color saturation, color combination or color science is one of the vital things, and messaging. Important thing about graphics is the messaging and how it will impact or relay, how it could relay the message to the audience.
When faced with a seemingly high or perhaps even unattainable target, how do you maintain your motivation and your drive?
Well, when I was a call center agent, our quota is 500 sales per day. If you will think about it, it's very draining, demotivating. It's really hard to, if you will think of it, it's very hard to attain. But what our manager is telling us every single time, that it's just a number. It's just a matter of taking the first step. So if you will not, if you will not, focus on the bigger, if you will not focus on the problem, and focus on the small step on how to solve that big problem, then I believe you will get there. It's not instant success. I believe there's no instant success. There's instant success if you'll do illegal, but if you are, if, all of this business person that's very successful, they start from small steps. So I believe that that's how we could attain a high target, by just starting small and starting from the basic.
Can you describe a scenario where you had to make tough decisions about which targets to prioritize due to either limited resources or time constraints?
All right, so I have this tagging, and I believe that this applies to all marketers as well. So when you are dealing with audience or leads, let's say, we need to make sure, we need to have that sort of identification, whether they are cold, whether they are hot, or whether they are totally hot, or extremely hot, to the point that they are willing to close a deal. There's always and always people that's not interested, or just skeptical about what we are promoting or what we are selling. Yeah, it's there's always people um, who's like that. What we could do is we could do nurturing. So when we do nurturing, we need to make sure that we could put them on a system, consolidate them every time, not all the time, but on a schedule basis, so that we could provide um, valuable information along the way, and to at least cook them till they are ready to engage and eventually close a deal.
So, Raphael, I'm actually going to ask that question again. Um, so, is there a time though where you had to make a trade-off where there just weren't enough hours in the day for you to fulfill on all of your responsibilities, and how did you make that decision on what to focus on and what not to?
Okay. So I always make sure to identify those, or to focus my energy on those who are interested, or at least showing signs of interest. So I make sure to have them recorded. Make sure to leave notes about their progress, key indications of their interest, the words that they're saying. It's all noted, and that's all. I need to make sure that it's written down, so that I could find a loophole or something to break the ice, and eventually, um, have them convinced to engage and to eventually close the deal.
And can you share a specific example from your past where you had to adhere to a tight deadline? How did you manage your time? And how did you manage your resources to complete the task?
All right. Well, for deadlines, I do have this whiteboard here and a calendar beside me. If you can see that, um, that's where I put all of the timelines and all of the projects that I have. So I do have this timeline, giving the project approximately 2 weeks in advance. That means that I could have the construction and the building of the projects for, let's just say, 2 to 3 week, 2 to 3 days. I mean, then the next 1 to 2 days will be checking and revision. Then the next following and the next time, or after the checking and revision, will be the actual revision, which will take a couple of hours or a day. Then you know after revision will be final checking. Then that's where we could publish the event. So approximately 2 weeks is what I give to the client.
Okay. Um, and so, have you ever had an instance where you only had, let's say, a week to complete something? And if so, how did you manage your time?
All right. Well, it it happens mostly with coaches that I've worked with, that they need instant result or instant information or instant output. So what I did is to identify the priorities. So I need to make sure that I have a proper tagging to all tasks. Which task is urgent? Which task needs less time crunch or something like that, and which task can be done at the same time. Something like that. So that's what I do. Make sure that we can do identification, put timeline on them, and execute. Have them revised. Have them check, revise, then submit.
All right. Raphael, that is it for my questions. So now I'm going to turn it back over to you. Is there anything that you would like to ask me, or is there anything that you would like to share that we did not cover during the interview process?
Like, I just wanted to be honest. The questions really intense. I did not expect that. Yeah, honestly. But just to be honest with you too, all of these things that you have mentioned is really real life scenario, and I've experienced some of them first-handed, like to the point that I have to improvise and do extra mile just to make sure that it's all completed, and at least we could deliver not only just a mediocre output, but at least something that I could be proud of myself, something like that. So with all of this informations in hand, I believe that this is something serious, and your advocacy, the vision and mission of your company is really good, and it has a bigger purpose. And me myself, I do have this type of bigger purpose that's playing. I'm reaching out to people who cannot afford. I provide materials, informations, tutorial videos to people who wanted to start their career like me. So I really share the sentiments there, and I'm really fighting for it. So I guess my question is, with all said and done, I just wanted to know, what is your ideal, like maybe 3 sentence or 3 words that describes the best ideal candidate that you are looking for.
If I were to summarize that in 3 sentences, okay, very a strong adherence to deadlines,
Mm-hmm.
because I am very deadline driven. You always know what the ETA is. Also, somebody with a very strong handle on the metrics, because I make just about all decisions based on data, not a gut feeling or anything else. It's like, okay, what is the data telling us? And then also for this role, since the company is so new and it just consists of me and one other virtual assistant, a high level of flexibility because there isn't always a ton of structure. And there's a lot of pivoting. Like we're all working on this thing, then I have a conversation with someone, I say, actually put that on pause, we're now going to work on this thing instead. And so there's just a lot of rapid movement. And so anybody who needs like a very clear plan and structure, the company is a bit too new for me to be able to deliver that consistently. So adaptability and flexibility, kind of going with the flow, while at the same time adhering to the deadlines and being very metrics focused.
All right, that's very nice. It seems like you are the type of client or a leader that's really into making sure that everything is done.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
If I have 10 things that are all 90% done, that means absolutely nothing is done. So let's get one thing to the finish line, and then it's done. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Really answers it, and that really is the final piece of the puzzle in the assessment that I have with this specific talk with you. So thank you so much for answering that. Well, do you have other questions to me, like personal or?
Rafael, I do not have any additional questions. I think I got them all out during the intense interview process. So I want to thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jillian. Really appreciate this talk, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Rafael. Jude will just reach out. You have a great day.
All right. Thank you. Bye.